I wanted to talk about the quarterback position from this standpoint. I just found out today that Kirk made a comment last week that seems rather odd to me, that he would say that they are more, I don't want to take him. Okay, I am paraphrasing. So if anyone catches me on particular words, I did not verbatim take this down, but in a sense that I know that he said this, they know more about Mark Gronowski than they do their own quarterbacks. What is he talking about?
I don't. You want me to look through the portal? What am I saying? You want me to look through the transcript right now?
Sure.
I can look through
looked this up today. I was looking for stuff for us to talk about. Folks, you can leave your comments and questions. We'll answer anything because it's that time of year when we don't have that much to talk about. I think this is the first time in the history of this show that we've kind of hit a lull in terms of topics, because we never used to have this kind of issue. But that I noticed this in looking through the quarterbacks portion of last week's news conference, that he made this comment that they know more about Mark Gronowski than their own quarterbacks. Now, I would understand that if they had a bunch of guys sitting around that were redshirt sophomores and never played, but we're talking about a quarterback in Brendan Sullivan, who started most of last season and was the starting quarterback at Northwestern before that.
You know, some people are going to say, Mark, you complain if your water was wet. Here is the comment. Here are the comments. Let me just read through these in case people missed the press conference, and sometimes reading the transcript really does help with understanding. In regards to Mark, he was asked about where he is as far as his recovery. Mark will be throwing lightly here probably in a couple weeks, not with the team. Biggest thing right now is just make sure nobody runs into him. He doesn't fall down, just being cautious with him. Everything has gone great, right on schedule. He's probably a little bit ahead, that type of deal. We'll play it conservatively. In a perfect world, you want everybody out there practicing. In his case, he's played a lot of football, and there's evidence that he knows how to play. He's smarter than the whole coaching staff combined. Some of that might be tongue in cheek, Mark.
That's funny. Well, right. Okay. Yeah, sure.
Let's keep going here. Dean's List guy, medical engineering. That part, I think, is going to come really quickly for him. Tim Lester didn't go on the road this year, so he spent a lot of time with the quarterbacks individually and collectively individually during winter months, and he's caught on. For new players, it's like learning a new system and a new language. That's the biggest difference. No different than when players jump in the NFL. They just have to learn the language, that type of thing. It's all going good, all going well, which is basically what you'd expect for any transfer portal player. So certainly quarterback's a little different. But, of course, we've seen so many quarterbacks transfer and succeed other places, right? Maybe not at Iowa, but at other places. It's not like it's hard to do necessarily. It happens all the time.
What has been hard for me to do over the last 15 seconds, Corey, has been to bite my tongue, because you obviously haven't looked at your phone in the last 15 minutes. I don't know if anyone else out there is scanning the internet while we're on right now. And I did not think that this would be possible, especially in this position. But Brian Ferentz coming back to Iowa football as passing game analyst.
Oh my goodness!
Are you seeing this?
Let me see. My internet froze up here. What are you hearing?
I am seeing this. With your connections, I'm surprised that you didn't get a lead on this.
No, I didn't get a lead.
But this is what I'm picking up here. Brian Ferentz, who obviously was the offensive coordinator, and then he moves on as an analyst to Maryland, and then he got an NFL job, passing game analyst for the University of Iowa for this season, to work with Tim Lester and the rest of the offensive staff.
Well, at least the passing game should be in good shape, right?
All right, everyone. Yes, you caught us there, Isaac.
All right. That was you. That was all you, Mark. I had nothing to do with that.
You had nothing to do with this.
I had nothing to do with it. You asked me to come up with a scenario that was absurd.
So it's not that you had nothing to do with it. I texted Corey this afternoon. I said, we got to come up with an April Fool's. And so this was Corey's brainchild. My idea was his brainchild. All
right. Should we go back to this, Mark?
Yes, let's get back to that.
All right. So this is the last thing he said about Mark, or maybe not the last thing, but the last thing we're going to touch on. He was asked about initial impressions. You've only been around him a couple months. What are your initial takeaways? But Kirk said, got to see him on film. That speaks for itself. How he played, more importantly, leadership. There's no avoiding that. He clearly did that. He delivered his team to a victory a lot. That's really impressive. Under-recruited guy. He brought up a guy in 1981. With who are we talking about in 81? Under-recruited guy from Chicago that did pretty well. Are we talking about one of the Hartleaves? No. Who would have been in 81?
81.
See, this is where I'm not good with history, but
Chuck Long, 81. His last year was 85.
Okay, maybe he's talking about Chuck. I'll deviate for 1 second. Had some free time last week, just going through some stuff. Tend to collect stuff. Here we go. And he's going off on a tangent. What is he talking about here, baby? Okay. He brings up Bill Polian. In this case, Mark is a proven player. He's done it on film, hasn't done it at the Big Ten level, but good players are good players in my mind. Kind of person he is in his demeanor. He's fairly quiet, has a humbleness to him and a confidence to him that's very genuine. I think the whole room is in really good shape right now. And he says, Hank has been a great addition. Can't say enough about Sullivan, just going back to June when he showed up, his work ethic, just his personality, his leadership traits. It's a really good group of guys. They're competing with each other. So where are you getting this thing where he said something about Mark being
I did not look at the transcript, but I read an article. I skimmed through an article, and that stuck out to me that he would say that.
Yeah, I don't remember that comment, but
okay, I will find it and bring it up. And I know it's way too early to make any kind of predictions or anything, but do you have a good feel for the 2025 season right now in football? Do you feel good about this team?
I want to say yes. I do want to say yes, and I want to be hopeful going into my senior year. It's always tricky with a new quarterback, and I just saw the press conference about 5 days ago where it seems everything's going good with surgery. It seems he's ahead of the game, able to start throwing lightly soon, but I feel like bringing somebody new in is always kind of stressful. So, but, I'm staying positive. It's early, staying positive. Trust what everybody's saying.
Well, Zoe, it was great to meet you. And again, folks, you will see a lot of Zoe here on the channel and also other ventures here across the Voice of College Football Network. So, Zoe, thank you so much for stopping by. And now you can run off to your next thing. Whatever.
I will. I got to go run.
Good to meet you, Zoe. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Have a good day. All right. There we go.
Good stuff. It's going to be a good addition to your team here.
I believe so. We have a lot of good additions. We let's see. We onboarded some Florida State guys and some Tennessee guys this week, and LSU. And
I said, we're just trying to phase you out of this thing, aren't we?
That's exactly what was on my mind as I was saying that.
No, it sounds like she's got a good head on her shoulders and hard worker, and it's always good to have somebody from the inside. And I think she's right. I mean, she brought up quarterback. That's what we talked about earlier before she got here. There should be some. I'm glad she said that. I mean, we can talk about how great it is that Iowa landed Mark Gronowski, but the reality is, as we've discussed, there was this much optimism or more when Iowa landed Cade McNamara 2 years ago. And it's just these people who live in the moment just amaze me, Mark. Every single year, really every single week, every single day. Iowa's Aaliyah Guyton enters the portal yesterday on the women's basketball front. I have to bring women's basketball back into this. She enters the portal, and I get a flood of comments on the video on my post about it. They're better off without her. She sucked. She knew she wasn't going to play. It's like, you have no idea what you're talking about. It's the same attitude, addition by subtraction garbage that you're just more times than not, you're just wrong as it relates to the portal. You're just wrong. And it's okay to be wrong, but you're just wrong. I had two people yesterday in the same, and I know other people agree with these people. I'm not going to call them idiots, but these people out there in the comment section, I had two people say, she's not going to even get D1 offers. I mean, literally, this is what people are saying. She was a 4-star recruit out of high school. By the way, her dad's AJ Guyton. We've discussed him. But she's already in less than 24 hours, Mark, just for some context here, in less than 24 hours, she has reported interest from Oregon, Marquette, Illinois, Michigan State, Nebraska, Arizona State, Purdue, and DePaul. Not even going to get D1 offer. I mean, come on, man. Don't be dumb. Like, you can be upset about it. Be upset about it. I said it yesterday. Be upset about the fact that Aaliyah Guyton's moving on. But it's like this idea that I have to rationalize why it's actually for the best. Why can't you just accept that it's not a good thing and hope that they can recover and go somewhere else with the move? Just like with quarterback. Can't we accept that you got people, we all, and maybe not to the extent, I didn't get the extent that the other people did, but people got too excited about Cade McNamara. He wasn't as good as people thought. It wasn't as ideal as people thought. They still had a horrific offensive coordinator coaching Cade McNamara. He still was incredibly prone to injury. And by the way, he plays at East Tennessee State now. So none of it matters. So I'm not saying that's going to be Mark's future, but I'm just saying, look at it and be like, I can be objective and say there is some uncertainty about the injury. There's some uncertainty. Doesn't mean it's to the extent of Cade, but there should be some level of angst, like Zoe said.
Well, in the case of Cade McNamara, what people knew was they watched that guy play in the Big Ten championship game, win the Big Ten, go to the college football playoff. And regardless of what the evaluation of his personal play was, that's impressive to people. And it is impressive from a career standpoint, but obviously that doesn't always translate. And I would love to have the personnel to go back and tear apart our shows from that time, because I thought we were fairly on the mark in terms of saying that this is a good thing for Iowa, potentially, that he could be a good fit as a game manager quarterback. But let's not go crazy that he is a bottom half of the Big Ten starting quarterback.
But now, correct me if I'm wrong, you actually think, have you come out with your Big Ten quarterback rankings heading into spring?
I have not.
All right. So, but my guess is you're going to say Gronowski is top half of the Big Ten.
Yes.
So, I mean, you are objective. You've proven that, but you're evaluating him differently than Cade, as am I. I don't do the rank. I'm not a national guy. I'm not a conference guy like you are. But yeah, I would probably place him top half. But that's not because I think the Big Ten is going to be down at quarterback. There is a lot of change. It's so hard to evaluate. It's just like, here, I'll go on another tangent. It's just like this morning, Iowa men's basketball announced their first opponent for the next season. They're playing Robert Morris at home. Robert Morris won their conference this year, Mark. They went to the Sweet 16. They went to the NCAA tournament and competed well against 2-seed Alabama, only lost by 9. But it used to mean something. You used to be able to schedule a mid-major program and be like, yeah, this is a good program that we're scheduling, or this is not a good program. But anymore, I don't know what the data says, but I do know the data that says you've got thousands of people in the portal. So, like, I already know Robert Morris has lost a bunch of their best players, because if a program excels one year, then their best guys are going to be on the radar, up for money to play at bigger schools. So then they're going to lose all kinds of. So I would expect it to, maybe not always, because the best programs at the mid-major level should be able to restock with other transfers from that level and D2, etc. But you could see in some conferences a cycle of bad, good, bad, good, bad, good, because unless you're lower half of your mid-major conference, you don't have time to develop guys. And then when you do develop them, you're good for 1 year, but then you lose them to bigger schools. So that's the challenge NIL and the transfer portal provides for mid-major schools. And I wonder if we're going to see somewhat of an effect there for the Big Ten. I don't think you're going to see as much, because these Big Ten schools are getting, just like the SEC, they're getting the best of the best quarterbacks every year, because it's the best of the best in college football. So even schools that lose really good quarterbacks, they should be able to more often than not reload. I don't know about, we know some of the players that have moved around. I think there's some schools where I don't project somebody to be, I don't expect Billy Edwards to be a great Big Ten quarterback, but I would have never expected what's-his-face to go from Wisconsin down to Florida and put up the type of numbers he did. So it's hard to project, and there's a lot of talent in this league.
Yeah, I think that after Drew Aller, that it's a tough job to differentiate performance or projected performance out of these quarterbacks all over the Big Ten. But I do expect him to be a top, if he's healthy, to be a top 6 or 7 quarterback in the Big Ten.
Yeah, And that's pretty darn good in a conference of 18. That's top third of the league. So if they have that and their defense can get back to close to what it was 2 years ago, they're making a push for 10-2. And I believe 10-2. I probably said this last year, and I may have been wrong. We'll never know because they didn't get to 10-2. But I believe that if they get to 10-2 with this schedule, they'll likely be in the college football playoff. Remind me again what the playoff scenarios were at the bottom of the 12 teams, not counting the G5 team. What were the Boise State? What were the what records of the teams on the bubble, so to speak?
The teams that just made it were 10-2.
And what about the teams that didn't make it?
So the teams, the at-large, you're talking about the at-large teams.
At-large teams, what were their records?
Ohio State, Tennessee, 10-2,
No.
10-2.
Teams that did not make it, that were on the cusp, but fell just short. Yes.
Did anyone make it? So there were some 10-2 teams that did not make it. BYU, 10-2.
Big 12.
Yes. The others were 9-3 teams.
So my point is,
Miami 10-2 did not make it.
But so far, we're 1 year sample. We've not seen any Big Ten or SEC teams go 10-2 and not make the playoff.
Correct.
I think with the schedule, it would be a travesty, unless there's just a ridiculous situation of dominant teams in the top 8. It would be a travesty if Iowa bullies through that schedule and gets to 10-2 and doesn't make the playoff. I think they're in the playoff. They get to 10-2. And maybe even in the conversation at 9-3. Sounds like there were some other programs that were in the conversation this year at 9-3 that didn't play in the 2 best conferences in the country.
No, that did play in the 2 best conferences.
No,
Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, those teams.
Yeah, but BYU and Miami.
10-2.
Right. Okay. 10-2. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But 9-3 in the better conferences. So we've run through the schedule. I have a hard time placing a lot of confidence on 10-2 at this point. We're going to get a look at this team in a few weeks. Open spring practice. Won't get to see Mark, but